What it do, boo-boo? Happy Saturday night. It's around midnight and we are here for our Secret Saturday sermons. We get together late on Saturday nights and study the secret teachings of Jesus found in the Gnostic Gospels collected in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. And we've been working on taking one bite at a time through the secret book of James. James is in Jesus's brother. And we've made it to the end of the book of James, everybody. This is the first one that we've attempted together, and I think it's been really fun, and we made it all the way through. And yeah, so basically we do these late on Saturday night because I work on Saturday nights, and because we started doing this late night secret teachings of Jesus Saturday night, like capping off Shabbat kind of thing. And the Hebrew sages, especially particularly the mystical sages, I know for sure, they feel that studying during the midnight hours and the late hours in the evening reveal extra light, and they're extra beneficial because we are not only pushing through our comfort zone and breaking ourselves, sacrificing our flesh in the spirit of Eucharist and sacrifice and releasing all that extra energy, but we are also in a liminal space between the end of one day and the beginning of the next. And so that's a very powerful time. It's kind of an open portal where the veil is thin and we can connect to the direct light easier. However, that is stronger. So it takes the earning of the vessel so that we don't short circuit. So basically that's like saying, you get a surge of energy or like magical, powerful energy around you, but it has nowhere to be channeled. And so it's going to cause chaos. In other words, if you haven't built the ability to handle the situation, then it's not going to go very smoothly. That's another way to describe that. Or like, if you haven't earned the vessel is like just a metaphor. It can mean many things, but if you haven't earned the vessel, then you may not appreciate the vessel. So the vessel contains the light, and it creates context in which the light can be revealed. The vessel can be many things. So for instance, a very obvious quick example is if you want to understand the information that we are studying, then building the vessel would be continuing to sit with it and come back to it and read through it and digest it, even though you may not understand it at first, and just have faith that like over time it will start to make sense to you. But it's like you've got to kind of keep coming back to it and keep putting that time and effort in and that consistency. Earning the vessel, like in a human dynamic, like say in a romantic situation, earning the vessel would be being an equal partner, trying to bring value to that person and also be open to receiving. And like, I guess in a very I'm just going to stop going into examples of that because we're getting sidetracked. Okay, so Apocalyptic Ascent. Oh my God, you got like, this is kind of an exciting passage. Nerd moment here. But yeah, we're in the Apocalyptic Ascent. According to what James, and I can't remember who was hanging out with James in this scenario, but they have been hanging out with Jesus, talking to Jesus, maybe Peter. And Jesus this is after the crucifixion. Jesus is in the kind of liminal space before he has officially ascended out of the realm of our physical existence and non-physical. So he's in that kind of astral plane right now where he's still meeting with the disciples. They're having visions of him, but he is not necessarily showing up in the flesh, hanging out with them in a physical sense at this point. So he has been talking to Peter and James, his brother, and up until now in this book, in this particular like secret book of James, he's been a little bit concerned because he feels that like most of the disciples sort of missed the mystical nature of his message and his teachings, and they took a lot of things really literally. And so he was a bit concerned that while those seeds were planted, they hadn't really embodied the wisdom and the deep understanding of his teachings that they were about to go teach to others. So there were some mixed feelings in this in these exchanges. And to know more, just go back and watch The Secret Teachings of Jesus, because this is the only book that we've done so far. I think we had a passage from Philip. I will read the passage poorly and awkwardly, and I will try to do voices if that helps, if I think about it. And then we will go back and reread and unpack. And caveat, I am not a theologian. I've read this one time. That was like 5 minutes ago before I started this video, 6.5 minutes ago. And so this is just the downloads and the insights coming through as we're sitting here together spontaneously. I just wanted to study all this and I didn't know when I was going to do it, so I decided we'd do it on camera together, right? So great. The Apocalyptic Ascent. So I think I'm James this time starting out reading. And when he's talking about when he left, he's talking about Jesus. When he said this, he left. Peter and I knelt down and gave thanks and sent our hearts up to heaven. We heard with our ears and saw with our eyes the noise of wars, a trumpet blast, and great turmoil. When we passed beyond that place, we sent our minds up further. I'm going to say that again. When we passed beyond that place, we sent our minds up further. We saw with our eyes and heard with our ears hymns, angelic prayers, and angelic rejoicing. Heavenly majesties were singing hymns, and we rejoiced too. Again, after this, we wished to send our spirits up to the majesty. When we ascended, we were not allowed to see or hear anything. For the other disciples called to us and asked us, "What did you hear from the teacher? What did he tell you? Where did he go?" We answered them, "He ascended. He gave us his right hand and promised us life, and promised us all life. He showed us children coming after us and commanded us to love them, since we are to be saved for their sakes." When they heard this, they believed the revelation, but they were angry about those who would be born. Not wishing to give them reason to take offense, I sent each of them to a different location. I myself went up to Jerusalem, praying that I might acquire a share with the loved ones who are to appear. And so I'm just going to go on and throw in this very final portion, which is called Final Advice. I pray that the beginning may come from you. This is how I can be saved. Or this is how I can be saved. They will be enlightened through me, through my faith, and through another's that is better than mine. I wish mine to be the lesser. This is Jesus again saying this. Do your best to be like them, and pray that you may acquire a share with them. Beyond what I have said, the Savior did not disclose any revelation to us on their behalf. We proclaim a share with those for whom the message was proclaimed, those whom the Lord has made his children. Okay, so let's go back and talk about this. So from the point of view of James, when he said this, he left. Peter and I knelt down gave thanks, and sent our hearts up to heaven. So basically, throughout this secret book, Jesus had met up with James and Peter in this like realm of the heart space, in a realm like the astral realm, where they're not necessarily seeing Jesus with their physical eyes, but they're having a vision of him through the portal of their heart. The heart is an information processor. It's an information center. I'm not sure if we're talking about the actual organ, but the chakra of the heart is, connected to the organ of the heart, but it's in this whole chest area. So the chakra, the center, the energy center of the heart, is an information processor, and it knows things even before the brain does. It's very fast, and it has foresight, right, and understanding. And so through pure love, in the book of Mary Magdalene, in the Gospel of Mary, she is discussing with Jesus how she is able to see him in her visions, and he talks about she's like, is it something that comes into the mind? Is it my imagination? Is it like in my, like head, or like, how am I seeing you? And he's like, it's through the heart space. And it's through the pure love that connects you to the souls and the spirits and the hearts of others, right? So, so Peter and James knelt down and dropped into their heart center. Like, this was a practice for them. I can see this in my mind, and just according to like what I've learned about Mary Magdalene through her gospel, and through like Megan Waterston's book, Mary Magdalene Revealed. To me, it seems like the disciples, like, they had a practice of doing meditative prayer, where they would, in this case, they literally knelt down, and they had a gratitude practice where they would give thanks and gratitude and connect through their heart space and drop into that heart space and meet up with Jesus. And that it requires you to just set that intention and literally put your energy into that point of your chest. Just breathe deeply and just relax and open yourself and sit in that space and let go. Let your mind go. Don't think about it too much. If it wanders, just let it wander, because what you want to do is you want to drop into a trance, and it's like tapping into the subconscious, but your intention is set in that heart space. And so this is what they literally did, and they gave thanks and sent our hearts up to heaven. So they were getting that heart space in that high vibration where they have affinity of form with the purest level of light. And so Jesus had already ascended above and out of his human form, out of his human cloak. And so he was ascended like in a lot higher than he even was when he was here already as a human being. So they had to elevate themselves in their consciousness to raise their vibration, to connect with Jesus in that heart space through that pure agape love. That is like the highest energy there is. Gratitude is also a very high energy. If you look at the emotional vibrational resonance scale, you can see that like gratitude and love and agape love are all like the highest vibrational emotions. So it's no surprise here that that's the state that they had to get into in order to be able to connect and have visions of Jesus. So and sent our hearts up to heaven. So that is elevating into that expanded consciousness, into that Christ consciousness. We heard with our eyes and saw with our ears, or we heard with our ears and saw with our eyes. So I think that when they keep emphasizing this, and I think what they're saying is the eye of their heart and that ear within the ear. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a clairaudient moment where you hear something plain as day and it feels like you heard it in your ear, but like inside your ear, and it didn't come from like, the noise didn't come from outside. It came from like somewhere else. And it's like, you don't hear it up in your head like you imagined it. You literally hear it as if it were in your ears. And like sometimes when you're in a trance, it's almost as if you can see things. You see it in a picture. Like you see the vision playing out. And that's different from when you have a clairsentience where you just know something, right? So I think that they're just making a point to say, like, we saw with our ears, or we heard with our ears and saw with our eyes, like as if they almost saw it physically, literally. But I think it wasn't. It was still just like a vision. We heard with our ears and saw with our eyes the noise of wars, a trumpet blast, and a great turmoil. And so I think that in the following passages, when they talk about the things that they heard, I think that this is them passing what they hear when they pass through the physical up that level to get to where Jesus is going. So as Jesus leaves out of the physical world, he's going up into a more elevated space. And I feel like when they heard the noise of wars, a trumpet blast, and great turmoil, that's like the energetic resonance of earth. We're in conflict. We're in turmoil. There's a war going on here constantly between light and dark, between good and evil. In our own minds, there's constant noise. It's a constant battle. That awareness of just like that mental chatter, that ego voice constantly trying to break you down and tear you down. So on every level of reality, there are like different levels of energy that we call angels and demons, and like different entities and energetic personalities and beings that like have certain frequencies that are assigned to like certain tasks, and that's what they do. And so I feel like part of what they are hearing are the choirs of angels that rule over, and maybe even like the warring of the angels and the demons that sort of manifest in these different these different dimensions of reality. And so I have my handy dandy chart here, just for such occasion. So this is the tree of life. This is a map, a blueprint of all of reality in this realm of physical existence as we know it, in context of like earthlings, human beings, and all of the governing heavenly celestial beings that have to do with us in this realm. There are other realms beyond this, but this contains this realm that is connected with humanity. It is also the map of the human soul. It is also a map of the Godhead. All of these 10 circles are the governing forces of nature, which are the 10 different aspects of God, right? So in all of these different areas, these are all dimensions, different dimensional levels of being. They're different levels of consciousness. They're different levels of physicalness. So this is the most abstract, non-physical up here. And as this is where the pure light enters, the void, like this is the void up here, like way up here, this is void. And then this space here is where like energy concentrates, and that pure light of the creator comes through and starts filtering through and condensing to become more solid, until finally this dimension down here is where like our multiverse would be, right? This is the multiverse of where human beings find themselves within. So this is physical reality, not just Earth, but it encompasses the whole universe and the multiverse, right? Physical reality. So governing forces are separated into each of these centers. And so I'm feeling like as Jesus is ascending beyond this physical and going up into the astral, the sound of leaving this dimension is the sound of like trumpets blowing, of war, of what was the other sound? Of great turmoil, because this is where the battle is like really the most concentrated, because this is where the ego has reign. This is the only place where like the physical can play out, right? Okay, so when we passed beyond that place, we sent our minds up further. We saw with our eyes and heard with our ears hymns, angelic praises, and angelic rejoicing. Heavenly majesties were singing hymns, and we rejoiced too. And so I think that that is ascending here to the level of Yesod, which is the foundation. There's so many things to talk about with each one of these centers. But for now, let's just say that that is on the next level of consciousness that a human being would be able to ascend to from the first level. So I think on the way out of the first level, we heard all the conflict and the chaos and the turmoil. The next level up, we hear rejoicing and splendor and heavenly singing. And so this is going to be that astral realm where we go into our nightly dreams, where we can meet with our spiritual helpers. There are shadowy characters in this realm as well as light beings, just so you know. But so this is the level in which they were hearing the angel choir singing. It's because their consciousness is raising, right, along with Jesus as he's ascending. Heavenly majesties were singing hymns, and we rejoiced too. And so that is giving them affinity of form, and that is raising their vibration to keep them rising and expanding in that consciousness. Again, after this, we wish to send our spirits up to the majesty. When we ascended, we were not allowed to see or hear anything, for the other disciples called to us and asked us, "Where did you hear, or what did you hear from the teacher? And what did he tell you? And where did you go?" So I think that they were interrupted before they could go further. And they were pulled from their trance when they were like, "What did the teacher tell you?" But before that, when they went up, they wanted to send their spirits up to the majesty. And so this is what I think. Okay, so this level of consciousness here is the Christ level of consciousness. This is the Messiah level. Jesus was working at this level when he was here. That's why he is the Christ. But none of us have been Christed in this life, and none of the other ascended masters have quite gotten to that level either. So I'm not sure whether they're suggesting that they stopped at this level, but I kind of assumed that maybe they skipped over. Like maybe this was the warfare and this was the angelic music. I'm not quite sure here. I'm just speculating. But at some point, this up here, this is the crown. This is the king. This is the absolute highest. That's where like God, that's God, just pure God, right? Beingness, the highest level. Same with the Bina and Hakma. These are the supernal feminine and masculine energies. Like it doesn't get any more pure and abstract than these three centers here. This is the supernal triad. So you can't get up to here. This is so much higher than human beings. Like even after like Jesus would have ascended, like he may have been able to go up to this high, but like even an ascended human being would have to continue ascending after death to get up that high. And you don't even want to go there, because at that point you've shed every layer of your individuality and your soul, and you're completely reabsorbed back into the whole. So whether it's the Christ level or the actual Keter level, I'm not sure. Either way, they were treading into a realm that they were not allowed to behold. There's the passage in the Bible that has something, it says something along the lines of like, no man has ever looked upon me and lived. And it is because like once you have complete awareness and understanding and the consciousness that can fathom this level of abstractness, then you are reabsorbed and you are no more. Elijah, there's debates on whether or not Elijah was like reabsorbed, like whether he ascended that high. Okay. Up to the majesty. When we ascended, we were not allowed to see or hear anything. That was for their own survival, for their own good. And then they wouldn't have had the conscious ability to even get that high anyway. For the other disciples called to us and asked us, what did you hear from the teacher? What did he tell you? Where did he go? So the other disciples kind of interrupted, and this is just a mundane thing where they're just like asking them, hey, like what happened? What'd you hear? But also I think there's something more to see here, because it's like the other disciples aren't in on, like they don't get it. They're like, where did you go? Where did Jesus go? What did he say? Like they're not there. They don't share it in that conscious awareness. And it's because it's like, well, why aren't they meditating and like connecting? Like, why are they waiting to hear the word back? Like, why aren't they taking initiative to connect themselves? That's what I'm wondering as I'm reading this. So they are separate. They're not in that level of consciousness with them. They couldn't go with them. So they're asking, like, did you get word from teacher? Like, did he say anything? Give us any assignments? Like, what did he tell you? And where did he go? Like, they're still just like, where did he go? Like, I don't understand. And like, he's kind of been like trying to like groom them to understand this all along. And to be able to like connect with that place themselves, because it's like, you can only like mythically and metaphorically and poetically talk about these things from the side. You can't even literally describe something. And so in order to have that, you have to have the experience yourself. That's what he kept saying. Like, you have to know this yourself. You have to experience it yourself. You have to have this moment where the seed that's been planted actually sprouts and it takes root. And it comes alive. It comes online. You have to have that experience yourself where you embody it and you know the truth, and the truth sets you free, and no one can take you back from you after that. That's what that part last week said. When you don't need the approval or validation of anyone, not even the Father can turn you out of heaven. It's like, once you know and get it, like, you can't unknow. You can't not get it. But yeah, so they don't get it. And then James says, we answered them, he ascended. He gave us his right hand and promised us all life. He ascended. He gave us his right hand and promised all of us life. Showed us children coming after us and commanded us to love them, since we are to be saved for their sakes. Okay, and so when he says he ascended and gave us his right hand, that is a reference to the right column energy. So on this chart, there is the central column, which is the neutral grounding, let's say the white wire from electricity. We have Hakma on the right side, which is masculine, and this is going to look reversed to you because of the camera. And then Bina is going to be the left-hand column, and that is the feminine column. And so the left-hand column is the negative energy, or the passive, or the receiving energy. It is the column of judgment. The column of the right side is going to be the active, or giving, sharing column, and that's going to be the column of mercy. So when he says he gave us his right hand, it means that he blessed us with mercy, with abundance, with knowledge. He gave us grace. He gave us favor. The blessing. This is the column of blessing and receiving and sharing. The judgment column is the column that is usually a little bit more challenging. It has a little bit more discipline to it. It creates form, and so that usually requires pressure and boundary. Where, this side is like abundance, goodness, joy, and all of that. So he has just blessed them and promised them eternal life, which is debatable, but it's, in this case, I feel like it's just saying that, like, you are going to keep coming back, and you're going to continue to expand, and your soul is going to continue to evolve. And it doesn't matter when this flesh suit dies, because you're going to be in another dimension. You're going to be, your soul, your consciousness, your spirit, your awareness is all going to still be intact, and you can even come back again and do this all over again, but like maybe as a different person. And then we'll get on into string theory, thinking like, well, maybe there's like infinite possibilities, come back as like this version of myself, as this person of myself, and maybe I come back as infinite versions of like Einstein and whatever, but like we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. Where did we go? Okay, so he ascended, he gave us his right hand, and he promised us life. Yes, continued consciousness and continual eternity, continuing nonstop. And then he showed us the children coming after us and commanded us to love them, and since we are to be saved for their sakes. I think he was speaking of the generations to come that we're going to have even more understanding and even more that are even more evolved and ascended than they were, because over time, with every generation, and I think it was very slow goings. Maybe it was every few generations people would be a little bit more conscious and aware and elevated. But I think as time has come closer to the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, like we've been speeding up, and we can feel that in a sense. Everything feels like it goes by so fast. Well, our consciousness is also expanding, and it's very apparent between some of the generations, like between the people born in the 80s and in the 90s and the people born in like the 2000s, like their level of sensitivity and ability to just accept something and go with it and not be like slow or like look back or like be backward. Like people are more and more conscious, even though they, some of the more recent generations might seem a little less grounded, a little less practical. It might also be because they're so in a surreal, abstract, like level of mind that they're more used to. They're also more used to being in a digital space, whereas, a couple of generations back, it was more of like everything was physical. There wasn't like, we weren't living in this like 5D world where like there was this whole internet world that was like this non-physical reality that we have that's not exactly our reality, but it's like a version of it, you know what I mean? So we're more and more and more advanced. And Jesus was speaking of these days to come where like this whole like huge exponential jump in consciousness was going to happen, and people were really going to be in touch with their abilities. Like now more than ever, people are starting to realize like, oh, you know, the New Age community is taking a lot of flack for it, but they're the ones with the, you know, actually jumping in on the leading edge of like working with their energy healing abilities and believing and actually like demonstrating the faith. Like a lot of, you know, you've got to take it with a grain of salt. Like, yes, some people are very like misinformed and misled and off the beaten path, but there are a lot of modalities and people doing work that is actually in alignment with Christ's teachings. It was like what he was trying to like set the disciples up to be doing all along, and they were like, I don't understand. And he's like, well, there will be people who will understand in the future. It will be like second nature to them. They'll totally get it. And then that really upset them. They were always upset that there was always someone else that like was gonna understand better than them, and Jesus is already more impressed. Because if you've watched any of these videos, this whole book, Jesus has been like, y'all are just like, y'all don't get it. They're like, Jesus hates us. He's so mad at us again. We keep doing what you say. You keep saying that we're not doing it, and we are. He's so like frustrated with them all the time. And then they're like so jealous of anyone who he's like, yeah, they get it. And they're like, fuck that person. Where are we? I'm like getting tired and crazy. Oh yeah, so we are to be saved for their sake. So it's like you're really just like the beginning, and you're being groomed to like make way for these generations to come. When they heard this, they believed the revelation, but they were angry about those who would be born. Fuck those people. They're not even good Christians. They're out there twerking their asses and saying, fuck. Raising the dead. Like it's nothing. And a thong. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Sorry to blaspheme. Okay, and they were mad about people who were going to be born. Not wishing to give them a reason to take offense, I sent each of them to different location. So this is James saying like, you know, I'm not trying to get these people all worked up. So I'm sending them, he's sending them out on their different assignments to go spread the gospel. And then he's like, I sent them off in different locations, and I myself went up to Jerusalem. He's like, I'm getting Jerusalem, praying that I might acquire a share with the loved ones who are to appear. So he's like, I'm going to go set up camp in Jerusalem and start my ministry there. And hopefully I'll hook up with some of these people who are apparently supposed to get it and already be, you know, living it and loving it. All right, moving down to final advice portion. I pray that the beginning may come from you. Like, this is just the beginning. This is Jesus saying, like, I pray that this is just the beginning of what's to come, and that seeds are planted, and there's going to be a wildfire, and it's just going to grow from here. And thousands of years from now, people will still be growing from this seed information, but I want it to be a living word. This is how I can be saved, to continue this message, to continue to elevate and expand not only our own consciousness and heal our own hearts and do our own correction, but to help others come to theirs. And as we all do this on an individual level, it actually raises the vibration of everyone around us. As we are lifted up, we lift up others around us, because vibration is contagious, and it can help. Like, information can pass, you know, from one person to another without having to talk about things, you know. It can happen telepathically. It can happen over time through influence. It can be different ways. They will be enlightened through me, by my faith, and through another's that is better than, They will be enlightened through me by my faith and through another's that is better than mine. I wish mine to be the lesser. So Jesus makes note of this all the time. He's like, there will be greater people that will come even than me, and you will do greater things than even me. And he was like, I don't want to be the pinnacle here. I just want it to be the beginning. And I am hoping that there will be people who will even outshadow me, that in the future there will be those to come who will have even greater faith than my own. Like, I want mine to be lesser. I want to be I want to be looked on as small potatoes at this point, because that means that what we did worked. That means that the seed was well planted and it grew and it continued to grow. Look around. Do you see many people that are doing greater things than Jesus? Not many. So we, though, by being here, are opening our hearts to learn how to wield the governing forces within us, which also puts us in a cosmic harmony with the forces around us and outside of us. And so by trying to change ourselves just a little bit every day and trying to find healing and correct our soul, correct our ego, and by learning to master ourselves and hopefully master our environments around us, little by little, like, we do make a difference in the world. It's usually not the big giant strokes where we can where we can solve like world hunger all at one time. It's usually gonna be by people making like habitual small micro changes, like in the way that they live. More and more people that are like, and younger generations are just like avoiding plastic bottles. Like my dad and his wife, like they drink so much bottled water. And I'm like, it's creating so much garbage. Like, just stop drinking the bottled water. Just like take a bottle with you. All it's not like that water is the same garbage water from everywhere. Like, no, you're not getting better water. So stop creating garbage. But like, so small things like that make a huge difference. Like, how many, one case of water, I feel terrible about creating that much garbage. You know what I mean? Like, not to judge my family and air their dirty laundry, but I don't think it's too controversial to say that someone drinks bottled water. At least not yet. It's like next week, canceled. Okay. Do your best to be like them and pray that you may acquire a share with them. I love it that he's like, hey, disciples, these people in the future that are going to be better than you, pray that you can be as good as them. Pray that you will be as enlightened as they are. That you can pray that you may acquire a share with them. Beyond what I have said, the Savior did not disclose any revelation to us on their behalf. So, like, as far as, like, all these people to come in the future, like, I don't know anything more about them. But hopefully you can have even a piece of what they understand. Like, pray that you can have even a bit of what they grasp, what they hold, what they own. We proclaim a share with those for whom the message was proclaimed, those whom the Lord has made his children. So, yes, those people who are to come, we are his children, and they were proclaiming a share of the understanding that we have the ability to open up to and grasp. The whole of humanity is at least a little bit more conscious and evolved than they were back when this was originally written, hopefully. So we have an inherent step up the rung of the ladder of understanding and awareness to be able to let this seep in. So a seed is planted, revelations come up at random. And when you drop into that heart space and you allow yourself to have that time where you go into those trances and you open yourself up to like revelation and understanding, and you set that intention to the universe and you make space for it, it'll come. Knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. It is unto you to know the mysteries. All right, it's 45 minutes. Hopefully I can export this video. Ciao, Bellas.